And welcome back, Nerf fans. This is John here with ContainmentCrew, and this is my continued look at the Nerf Sledgefire. So, I've gone ahead and taken the liberty of removing all the screws from there, because there they are. They're all the same size. Save some time from fumbling with the screws. So, the shell pops open fairly easily. There's really nothing holding it. Again, the outer blue piece is actually a separate piece of plastic that it appears they've either glued or solvent welded on, so it's not going to come off very easy. But I wish they made that come off. It would have made painting a lot easier. But, not my decision. The rear piece pops right out, and the only real interesting thing that I have to say about this is the way that it's molded. If you look at it here, and maybe, I don't know what angle, but these are actually tabs in here, and they've gone ahead and filled plastic over this, because I guess the original molds, this thing was intended to be able to pop in and out of here, but they've gone and hard molded this ridge in here, so these tabs no longer function. But I guess if you took a Dremel to it and ground that off, you might actually be able to make a really easy removable stock mod for this. So, you know, even though they didn't originally do that, that might turn out to be a plus on this. Alright, the front end of the blaster. Okay, so we've got this piece here, which is not really functioning. Yeah, you gotta pull it pretty hard when the blaster's not together. But this piece is real simple. It's the little fake hammer action that just releases this. Looks like it's just clipped together. I can't imagine there's really too much going on in there. Yeah, it just looks like a simple spring setup, and when you pull the rod back, it just, yeah, pulls the teeth out of there. So not too much going on with that. The front piece, I don't really want to take apart because there's nothing really going on in it. There's just the release spring for these things, and the the little tab and spring that hold them in. So there's really nothing going on in there. But looks like, again, just like the hammer shot, this whole piece comes out, and it's a self-contained little thing there. Does this? Oh boy. Okay, maybe you can't prime it out of the blaster. Oh wow. Look at that spring in there. That is a real stiff looking spring. So, oops. Get the shell pieces out of there for a second. 3 screws in there. Guessing that's part of the, does that follow a channel? No, not really. I don't know what that is. It must be just alignment or something. But looks like that doesn't come off too easy. Looks like you have to take this whole thing apart to get the front bit off of this. Alright, so let's crack this cage open. Looks like it's just tabbed in a couple of places. There's 1, 2... Oh, I should probably keep it in camera a little bit better. 3 and 4? Unless it's held someplace else. Come on. There we go. That came off nice and easy. Good thing they didn't solvent weld that. So, here we go. There's our internals. Let's see, what do we have here? This is our main priming rod with the spring. We've got a catch back here, which was actually caught a little bit, so I guess I was able to prime it a little bit. But this spring is... oh boy, that thing's incredibly stiff. What else do we have? So this rod, must push this and it rotates at this point and pushes this back. And hopefully we can see this, but the priming rod has these little ratchety teeth. So, whoops, and now things fly apart. Oh, that's okay. So that part came off, this part popped out, trigger, and the return spring on the trigger is just a little torque spring. Real simple. Not a lot of force is needed. This is... what is that? Is that a Yeah, it's a trigger lock. So, looking at this, that must be so that unless it's in the front position, you can't pull the trigger. Okay. Although, if that's in the front position, and you did pull the trigger, that would hold that lock in place. Huh. I wonder if you could actually kind of sort of slam fire this. I'll have to check that out. But okay, trigger comes out. This part of the priming bar comes out. Lock comes out. And what is this little thing going on back in there? Is that a little... what does that do? It doesn't stop the catch from moving. Or does it allow the catch to move when the priming rod's back? No, are you a completely worthless piece? That might be a completely worthless piece. Alright, so... oh. So that flies back like that. You really don't want to come out of there. What do you do? I don't think you do anything. I don't know. This doesn't seem to actually do anything. It looks like it was intended to be some sort of lock, but looking at the catch, I don't know. I don't think this actually does anything. If somebody knows what that does, let me know. Because I can't see it doing anything. Alright, so the plunger tube is tabbed in again. Okay. Doesn't really move around much, but... alright, I'll be back when I pry this apart and I'll give an analysis of the plunger tube. Alright guys, so we're back and I did get the plunger tube assembly undone from the casing. And there's really not too much going on with it. The one interesting thing I would like to note is that the actual plunger rod is actually made up of two separate pieces that are snapped together, so this is actually a really sturdy rod, and I'm guessing because of the strength of the spring they had to do something like that. Although the fact that they reinforced this so much, but this joint up here, this joint really seems like a failure point for this. But again, the head is pinned together like the hammer shot was, and nice big O-ring and plunger head. That's about it going on this way. For back here, we'll just get a look down there. There is a plate that is retaining the back of the air restrictors. It looks like it's part of the plunger tube, and like I said before, unfortunately, looking at the seal on this up front, it looks like they've gone ahead and also solvent welded this one together, even though it's got these clips. I really wish they would stop doing this, because it's damn near impossible to get at these air restrictors without destroying something. Again, from the front, hopefully the camera picks up the difference in materials, but there is this nice ring of rubber actually embedded down into the front of the plunger tube there. And that is to help with the seal against these little, I guess, shells. So they snug up nice and tight, and, you know, just every little bit to help the air, you know, stay in there. But that's about it with what's going on with the plunger tube. I guess if you wanted to get at the air restrictors, if you had some sort of long Dremel bit and knock this plate out, that's probably the best way to do it. Not sure how well going in from the front would be. But also another note on these air restrictors, unlike the hammer shot, they do not have those rubber sealing pads on the front. Which, that's interesting. Because there's actually, if you put the plunger in here, the seal is good on the O-ring, but you can definitely feel air pushing out the front around the air restrictors. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that, so we'll get this back together and we'll close this out. Alright, so I'm back after putting the plunger tube back on, and I'm kind of working on putting this back together, but I'm looking at this little piece that's sitting back behind there, and I still, for the life of me, cannot figure out what it does. there's no point in its movement where it restricts the catch or prevents the priming rod from moving. Oops, I don't really want this to catch at all. So this is either some sort of, you know, failed engineering or a part that was left in from an older revision or something, because I cannot see it actually doing anything. If somebody does know what that's for, you know, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear ideas, but as far as I can tell with the functioning of this, it does absolutely nothing. So, I'm just gonna go back to reassembling this. There's our little primey bar part. And then this lays in here. And rotate it around correctly. Oh. And the trigger lock forward. That's everything that came out of that, right? That looks right. Trigger springs on. Okay. Hope this cage pops back on easy. And oh, this walked a little bit. Okay, this back on. Yeah, this thing's actually kind of slotted. There we go. Alright. And that's how it goes back together. And I didn't lose the tack rail piece. Good. Okay. So that's basically all. It's not really that complex. Again, ooh, maybe I should put screws back in it. I'm not going to take the front piece apart. There's really nothing going on up there. Just the shell. The shells slide in. This little thing catches to hold them in, and fire. Release it, and when this pops all the way up, it hits that little pin and releases. And if you see down there in the front, there's a little spring piece. I'll just poke it with my spring hook. This is that's the actual spring released piece that pushes the shell out. So there we go. That's the internals of our Sledgefire. Not really all that impressed, you know, kinda, well, after taking apart the Centurion, it's really not much. Oh, I forgot to put the stock back on. But there's really not, you can't really get too much more complex than the Centurion. And the electronics and the Rapid Strike, but there you guys go. Sledgefire.